Hi guys, Shiloh Coat here and full of the Christmas spirit. I'm super excited to do my wrap up of November / first week that I'm back full time doing my vlog. I actually got a lot of reading in before December hit. So let's just jump into it. I have a lot of really cool stuff going on that I want to share. First thing I'm going to start with are the things that I ended up not reading and then DNFing. So the first thing was the Orphan Queen, which I thought was connected to Jodi Meadows' other book, which is Before She Ignites. Well, Before She Ignites is a completely new series. So I opted to not read the Orphan Queen because it would just be me starting another series, and I'm really trying to finish them right now. So I didn't read this because it just didn't fit into my plan. Before She Ignites by Jodi Meadows. Now, I was really excited, just, the whole concept of this book. You have a person of color who's dealing with anxiety issues while she's supposed to be like this chosen one. Also, you have rogue dragon traders. It just sounds like a good time. I'm really sad to say that I just did not finish it. I was like 200 plus pages in. I was bored out of my mind. I found it to be very repetitive. I felt like the story was stretched too thin. Like, it could have progressed faster, or they could have been giving me more meaty things that would keep me turning the page. Also, I didn't like the disjointed jumping back and forth between timelines. Like, I understand if something happened in the past and it was important for me to know, but it was just willy-nilly 6 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months before this, and it was more jarring than it was revealing, and I just couldn't justify continuing to read this book when I had so little time and so many other books that I was more interested in. So this was a big letdown for me. If there was some huge turning point that I missed that happened after like 220 pages, let me know. What was your thoughts about this? I'm really interested. I just sort of promised myself that I wouldn't continue books that I just wasn't feeling anymore because I don't have the time to waste. The next book I had was one I was super excited to get in. It was Witches, because I'd been waiting forever for this to come into my library. It was on hold for weeks, and it was another disappointment for me. I felt like The Witches was very, 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 very loose because there was like this much of witches in it, and it wasn't witches how I knew them. I wasn't into this story. I felt like it was disjointed and it wasn't fully explained. It's not something I'm going to continue along with. If you read it and it was different for you, let me know. This was like a 2-star read for me. So, Sons of Anarchy, Redwood Originals, Volume 1 was amazing. If you love Sons of Anarchy and you just want more of that, this is sort of like the perfect way to get back into that world fresh, because everybody's younger. This is Jax's prospecting years, so you're getting to see a whole different side of characters you love, but it's still very much them. I read this in one sitting. I couldn't put it down, and I can't wait to continue with it. This was definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. So we had Forbidden by Kelly Armstrong. I picked it up because I thought it looked interesting. Also, it was illustrated, which doesn't always happen in books. It was just a huge disappointment for me. It was a slow story, and while it was sort of a murder mystery whodunit, it felt very info dumpy. There was something about the delivery, the way that it was written, that just seemed lukewarm. It was very dull. I forced myself to finish this one, but I wasn't a fan. There wasn't anything wrong with the writing per se. It just didn't click with me. You have the story of basically alphas, and the interesting twist is the female is the alpha next in line, and her husband is sort of the guy backing her. There is a rogue werewolf in their territory who almost changes, and they have to go pick him up from jail. And in that process, they end up finding out that someone is murdering hitchhikers and sort of wanderers in that town, and it looks like it could be a wolf, so they definitely have to get to the bottom of it. It sounds super interesting, which is part of why I picked it up in the first place. But in the end, it just fell flat. This was like a 3 out of 5 for me. And that was being generous. I would even say it was a 2.5 read for me. Then I had Brazen, also by Kelly Armstrong. I was sort of trying to give it a second chance, and this was redeemable. I really did enjoy this one. It had a faster pace. I enjoyed the romance aspect of it. There was a cat and mouse chase with a serial killer. I really liked this one. It was a 4 out of 5 read for me. I would read more of her books if they were more like Brazen. I learned later that this was actually attached to a series that she wrote before. These are sort of one-offs that happen after the series. That might be another reason why I wasn't as into them, is probably someone who knew these characters more intimately. If you've read these and you read the series that they were connected to, did you find it was way different for you reading it? I'd love to hear about it. 4 out of 5 stars for me with this one. Next, I picked up Frostfire, the Kanan series by Amanda Hawking. I'm sort of split in the middle with this book because there was great world building, there were some interesting plot twists in it, but at the same time, there were things that were just repetitive and awful and sort of stupid for the sake of being stupid, which is always a really, really, really tough pill for me to swallow, as far as the lead character Bryn, where she was like, I'm so tough, I'm so determined that I don't see the decisions I make go completely against the direction I'm trying to go in my life, or literally who I am. It doesn't make sense for me to make these decisions, but plot-wise, it does add tension that doesn't need to be there because there was enough tension that could have been focused on in other places. So I was torn. I liked the world, I liked the lore, which was why I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars and ended up continuing into the second one. You definitely have Bryn Avon, who is, for the sake of saying it, we're saying she's a special soldier, one of the elite, and she wants to move up to the guard, who is the king's soldier specifically. So that's her whole goal. And because of this, she's completely focused on that, which makes for hell on her relationships. Sort of has this weird vibe going between her and her boss, which was questionable for a bunch of different reasons that I'm not going to go into because you can just read it for yourself if you're interested. So this is one of those books where you know it's not a great read, but you just keep reading because it's like candy. There's something in it that you like. That being said, I did finish it and I was sort of torn on if I wanted to continue, but I'm glad I did, because Ice Kissed, which is the second book in this Kanan Chronicles, was everything I wanted from the first book. It was a faster pace, there were some very interesting plot twists, I learned a lot more. We got deeper into the lore, but we also got deeper into the characters and their histories and why they were the way they were, and the different, I don't want to say realms, but almost the different countries that house the different species of people. It was just an amazing world. So that's why I kept reading, and I was really pleased with the way that Ice Kissed went. It was like a 3.5, 4-star read for me. I love the way that Bryn began to open her eyes and develop her own thoughts, to question the things I wanted her to question in the first book. It was sort of a redemptive read for me. This was where I wanted the story to be going. And I did pick up book number 3 because I do want to see how it ends. If you like world building and interesting lore, and I would say more on the fairy side, because we're talking about trolls and we're talking about water people. They weren't quite mermaids, but they did have gills, and changelings. It will sort of keep you reading the book even when there are man moments, just because the world is so amazing. So I'm hoping that the third book will get even better, and I will be happy that I've read this all in all. Those were like my reads of last week. And then for Christmas, I decided to do something that I saw Elaine Reed doing. I saw her doing a book advent, sort of like a play on an advent calendar, but it's a book advent calendar. And I thought that was really cool because I'm having a hard time reading the books that I have on my shelf because I'm a library junkie. I'm always in the library and I'm always seeing these new and interesting things that I want to read, and the books just sit on my shelf. So I thought, what better way to get through these books in December? This is some of my book advent, because of course I'm coming to you on December the 5th, which means that I have already opened some. So the way that this works for me is I open the book, and then my goal is to sort of read it before I move on to the next. What I have found to be the case is that some of these books I'm not quite as interested in. So I'm going to show you what I've opened so far. The first book I opened was Real Vampires No Size Matter by Jerry Bartlett. I picked it up because it was on sale for 99¢, and I had remembered reading Jerry Bartlett before, and I really enjoyed it. I thought she was witty and funny, in that there was something I remembered liking about her take on vampires. Having gotten into this a little bit, I'm not sure if maybe I outgrew that style or if I'm just not into it right now, not enjoying it. So what I'm going to do is actually put it into my donation pile. I have a pile started, so it's not just going to sit in my shelf. It's actually going to move out and make room for 2018 because I'm ready to hit that strong. So I opened up the next book, which was A Daughter of the Blood by Anne Bishop. I'm just a little bit into it so far, and I'm really enjoying it, but it's sort of an info-heavy, world-building, high fantasy book. So I know I'm not going to be able to read it just straight on. So I also went ahead and opened book 3, which was Mad Miss Mimic, which I picked up for the cover, and then I thought it was just interesting because you have the 17-year-old heroine whose name is Lenora Somerville. She has a very, very weird speech impediment where she stutters to the point of not being able to speak in her own voice, but she can mimic someone else just fine. And so of course she's ostracized because this takes place in London in 1872. I just wanted to know where they were going to go with this because I found it to be quite fascinating. So right now I have these 2 books going. I'm enjoying Anne Bishop's style, but it's definitely high fantasy, so it's going to take me a little bit longer to read that one. Glad I picked up Mad Miss Mimic because I'm sort of jamming through it at the moment. So my rules for December are that unless I've already gotten it from the library, I cannot pick up anything else that is not already on my shelf. So this is going to be interesting for all of us because I'm a library junkie, guys, and it's going to be really, really, really tough. But I'm going to be proud of myself if I stick to it because then my shelves are going to be ready for the next year. Are you doing anything special for Christmas as far as your reading? Have you done any shelf cleaning and prep for the year to come? I would love to hear about it. Thanks for joining me on this video, and I will see you later on this week with something else. Bye, guys.